Great, then hello and welcome everybody to our webinar about how to protect digital identities, the identity threat landscape. We have this currently about how to protect against deepfakes, GenAI, and browser-based attacks. A few logistical information. So you are all muted during that webinar, but please use the opportunity to ask questions via the question option here, or give comments, because at the end of our presentations we will then come back to your questions and discuss that interactively. Then the session will be recorded, so you will have the opportunity to look into that or share it with your colleagues afterwards. And that's it. I'm very excited that today I have Aki with me. Aki, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Andre. Thank you for having us, or thank you for having me. My name is Arkadius. I'm a senior solution engineer here at Okta, covering the CE region, and looking forward to the session. And back to you.
Thanks. Yeah, Andre Priebe. I'm the CTO of IC Consult, now with IC Consult since 20 years. And if you don't know us, we are a system integrator, a consulting company, and a managed service provider, completely focusing on the topic of digital identities, providing advisory, implementation services, also managed service. And yeah, that's it. Let's really start with a very, very exciting topic that is about the identity threat landscape. And I would like to start with a topic that is sometimes a little bit painful to make that really being really aware of that huge risk that this is introducing to all of us. And this is about spear phishing. What is spear phishing? Well, these are phishing mails that are not sent to the large number of users to find the dumb ones clicking on it. No, it's a very, very focused mail to just one single victim, but with a lot of context information. Yeah? So it will have names in it that are fitting perfectly into the context that the person is expecting. It will likely have some kind of context that is very current, with an urgency and absolutely in the boundaries of the responsibility of that person. So it is causing a lot of efforts generating such a mail because you have to really, the attacker has to spend time in understanding context by going through social networks, home pages, and so on and so forth, and then really putting that into very realistic context for the victim. The likelihood for that the victim is clicking a link, entering credentials, downloading malicious software is very high. We are talking here about around 60%. That's 60% of the users are following these activities. And the other aspect that makes it really concerning is that based on a study from this mid of last year, the effort to build such a spear phishing attack can be reduced by 95% by leveraging GenAI and large language models for that. And that was, to mentioning this explicitly, before DeepSeek R1 showed up. Yeah? So in other words, the effort for the attackers based on better GenAI tooling, more efficient large language models will be reduced more significantly. And therefore, we really have to ensure that we have very, very strong capabilities in place to protect us against spear phishing. And now here's the thing. Often a very important starting point is focusing on the authentication piece. Yeah? So that's the reason why especially the topic of passkey as a phishing resistant passwordless authentication method is now getting a lot of attention, and I absolutely support that really focus on making authentication as phishing resistant as possible. For those of you who are not familiar with passkey, that's a new authentication method that is a kind of specific flavor of FIDO2. I don't want to go into the details, just a very brief overview. The idea is very simple. The identity provider, the website, is sending a challenge to the client. The client is bringing in two different things. One is the device itself, and the other is biometric or a knowledge-based PIN challenge, and that in combination is used to sign the challenge. And the important thing here is, and that's the big difference to a kind of push notification in a mobile app, is that in that case, the client is just working on that authentication challenge to the end user if it has been sent from the same server that was used for the enrollment. So in other words, a phishing attack, a man-in-the-middle attack, that's something what cannot easily be achieved by using passkey. But what does that mean at the end of the day? If you put that this whole approach to risk management metrics with the topic of account takeover, is the result based on that we can come from a scenario that is almost certain, phishing attack, spear phishing attack, to a scenario that is rare. We can discuss, of course, the impact as well, or are there other things to do? Before we proceed, we would like to ask you the question. In case the attacker was able to bypass the authentication, what do you have in place to identify that an attack is ongoing? So please click the methods you have in place within your organization, and then we will share the results in a minute with you.
It's going to be interesting.
The first answers are coming in. So please just select what you have in place within your organization to detect that an attack is right now ongoing, that an attacker is inside your network and or on your IT assets. Okay, a couple of persons already provided feedback. Let's wait for 20 more seconds. There are no names associated with the answer, so you can really share your perspective. It will not be visible. Okay, so we have a few answers. Then let's stop the poll and bring the result up. Do we see the result?
No, disappeared, Andre.
This disappeared somehow.
Now we're back.
Now it's back. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah.
it's back.
So good thing is measures are in place, typically focusing on the Active Directory, on the identity provider, and also be able to detect lateral movement as soon as it is happening via SIEM and XDR capabilities. This is good because to be clear on that, there is more work to do. I would like to bring up one nice example what we have to have in mind, and this is about Star Wars. Star Wars by itself is not a risk, but the thing I would like to share here is a scene from The Mandalorian. Luke Skywalker shows up on stage and looks like the version of himself 40 years ago, but played by the same actor, Mark Hamill, that obviously was not able to protect himself against the effect of time, like all of us. No, it was a lot of post-processing required to make him appear like the young Luke Skywalker. The exciting thing really comes up from a security perspective beginning of last year, when a company in Hong Kong paid £20 million based on a CEO fraud, in which CEO was really via deepfake attack presented in a video conference call, including also voice synthesis. So live video conference, and the CEO looked like the attacker looked like the CEO of the company, and then was causing that really significant damage based on around 20 million pounds paid for transaction. Another thing that came up in the beginning of this year and of last year was a very, very focused attack on developers of Google Chrome extensions. And the attackers were able to get access to extensions published via the Chrome Web Store and could replace the extensions with manipulated versions. So being able to access, and that's now the important point, accessing credentials, session cookies, access tokens, refresh tokens directly in the context of the browser. And in that case, it's too late for MFA, because that's before the session has been generated. Also, endpoint protection solutions were not able to identify that kind of attack, because it was just not visible to any other layer but what was happening inside the browser in that case. And so to bring it into a kind of flow, the attacker in that case was really able to bypass all the mechanisms in place to prevent him from getting access to the critical IT assets by just taking really the valid sessions and becoming active with that. And now the question is, how can we prevent these kind of attacks on the identity layer? And before moving into the details and letting Arki explain how Okta is covering that, I would like to bring up one architectural perspective on what is identity threat protection when it comes to architecture. And because we have different areas to cover here. One is really very focused on the identity provider itself, everything related to session cookies, to access, refresh tokens, SAML assertions, and all these kind of things. Then second area is everything related to the Active Directory at runtime, or also at administration time. So if the attacker wants to escalate privileges on the Active Directory level, then everything related to what is happening in SaaS resources out there. Is there malicious behavior, unexpected user behavior on a SaaS resource, and then the topic of on-prem resources. There might be on a server side, might be also for endpoint protection based on clients. And the last aspect is really the area of what is available in the darknet. So because attackers often are very well structured and specialized, the ones are phishing the credentials and to bring the next party into the victim's organization and selling that on the darknet. And that's something what can be monitored and leveraged. In other words, the goal is really, if you are now deployed phishing resistant MFA and maybe checking device compliance and these kind of things, now to reduce the impact of a successful attack by being able to detect it fast and stopping the attacker before really significant damage is done. And now I'm very excited to hand over to Arki to learn how Okta is dealing with that aspect.
Yeah, thank you, Andre, for this valuable and important insight. So let me share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see it. And let's kick things off with identity threat protection with Okta AI, as Andre mentioned. So let's continue the discussions. Some housekeeping, safe harbor to be on the safe side of the house, and some stats from our side. So we as Okta are the world's largest independent and neutral identity company. So looking at the numbers, more than 800 million unique monthly users and more than 19,000 customers around the globe trust Okta. So we are happy here sharing this. But let's continue with the fundamental truth that identity is security and has become the new perimeter. So we've heard from Andre different stats and informations, and everybody should now know that these days where a secure fire was enough are gone to keep the bad guys out. So in really today's evolving threat landscape, identity is the key to the kingdom. Why? Looking at the stats and the pictures, they are painting a sobering picture. So nearly 80% of organizations suffered security breaches, and many statistics showed that nearly 90% of those breaches could be traced back to compromised credentials. But the real eye-opener, what we see, what we also saw in the stats, is that attackers are no longer no longer content with just stealing credentials. So they are exploring this kind of post-authentication vulnerabilities, hijacking sessions, and in worst case, just moving literally through networks with an alarming ease. So, and this method of stealing cookies give the bad guys, the bad actors, a kind of convert avenue to access and control an active session, posing a real substantial risk beyond initial unauthorized access. So the problem, and what we saw also on the slide that Andre mentioned between the different authenticators, many organizations have really made significant strides in implementing strong authentication measures. And this approach only addressed part of these complex identity security challenge. So the focus on enforcing robust authentication at the point of login, while crucial, leaves the big gap in ongoing session security that sophisticated attackers can really exploit. So when it comes to an overall overview how this is looking like from an Okta perspective, so customers have implemented phishing resistant authenticators. They are logging into their applications. They are logging into the one-stop shop, the Okta dashboard. We are checking against specific authentication policies. Is the assurance met? So is the device managed by an MDM? So are all the rules in place that the device can really access the applications? If everything is met at authentication, you are fine. You are granted access, and everything is good for the moment during authentication. But the big challenge, as we also highlighted this several times today, how about the risk post login? So this is the big question, and here our identity threat protection with Okta AI kicks into the game, because with so-called IDP, we really enhancing the post authentication protection, and we are securing the identities in real time. Rewinding back, coming back to the authentication flow. So we are still checked against phishing resistant authenticators. Everything is fine. The user is logged in, but as also Andre showcased, what will happen when a bad actor, let's call him Jordan, have stolen the session cookie and take this cookie, is moving literally through networks and then using this cookie to log in from a different location to the Okta dashboard and to the application. Here is exactly where identity threat protection kicks in and gives our customers and overall the big benefit. We are detecting that for us with an IDP, this is a risk event. So in this moment, our risk engine starts to check against the customer's authentication and global session policies, and the customer can decide based on the threat, based on the risk level, which precise responses they want to execute. Do they want to start a workflow, or do they want to execute a universal lockout that I will highlight and introduce and talk about in a few minutes. So summarizing this, when we are talking about our identity threat protection solution, we've built a really comprehensive solution that's laser focused on enhancing post-authentication protection and again, securing identities in real time. So at its core, ITP is about really providing continuous adaptive security from the moment a user logs in to the moment they log out. So a kind of 360-degree security. We are leveraging our Okta-rich identity context and combining it with intelligence from across the security stack to build this overall complete picture of the identity risk. And this allows us really to continuously assessing user and session risk, not just at login, but really throughout the entire session. So it's a solution that can really detect and respond to identity threats in real time and help customers and organizations stay one step ahead of the even most advanced attacks. So it delivers unparalleled value where it matters most at a critical intersection of identity and security. Now, I would like to highlight and introduce you to the core capabilities when we are talking about identity threat protection. And let's start with our threat detection capabilities. So we can check for a variety of detections to safeguard against security threats. The key types of detections are, for example, user-reported suspicious activity, where a user can report an incident by just responding to an Okta-generated security notification email or by clicking on a report in the recent activity pane. This will alarm the SOC team or execute again our powerful universal lockout. Then we have the session incident risk. So the entity risk level was changed because of a change in the session context. So this detections only occur when the session risk level, for example, is high. So session inference risk means that the bad actor picked our cookie and moved literally through networks. Other detections like suspected brute force attack, where we can detect sign-ins of a potential brute force attack, or an admin user reported risk, where an admin can directly change the overall entity risk level to a high value from the Okta console. Also, the security events provider reported risk. So a security event that is reported by a third party based on the shared signals framework that I will also highlight in a few minutes. And last but not least, we also have a detection called suspicious app access, where we are detecting suspicious attempts to access an applications. For example, again, a bad actor had a session cookie and suddenly tried to open up all the applications. So all these detections, so-called our first-party detections, really help monitor and respond to various suspicious activities and security threats, ensuring really, again, a robust security posture for the whole organization. Within this whole ITP stack, we now have an engine that enables the magic of real-time detection of user risk and, when it comes to the K protocol, continuous evaluation of user and session risk against the current authentication policy. So it's about constantly monitoring against the whole Okta environment, all the applications they are associated into it, against the authentications, but also global authentication policy. And this really allows us to take a complete picture of a real-time view of the whole identity security posture. And once we have these signals ingested, this magic new risk engine will be creating detections for user risk associated with this shared signals data, such as detecting session hijacking, MFA fatigue, or users suspended, or even devices compromised. So a lot of options that we have here. And anytime any of this context changes, we are re-evaluating the policy to make sure that the user should still have access. So at the end of the day, it's all about knowing immediately when context changes, which is very important because time is our enemy. We offering really tailored responses to these various threat scenarios. So from, as already mentioned, initiating immediate lockout or triggering a kind of inline multi-factor authentication, or even deploying a predefined threat response workflow. Think of reducing privileges or access, or sending an alert to a ticketing system or to a SOC team. Adaptability is key, and we are working with our big partners and continue expanding the possible actions that nowadays are very big. Now, really the objective remains consistent with both robust secure measures with the minimal disruption to the end user. So that is really, really important. One aspect of adaptive actions that I want to talk more, which we already introduced, is our powerful universal lockout. With universal lockout, we are now able to terminate active app sessions and really revoke Okta's identity provider sessions across all devices for supported applications. And we are the only one that can leverage this universal lockout capabilities. So we are really trying to ensure that if a threat is detected, access is revoked everywhere, dealing with this session hijacking that we surfaced at the service challenge. So it's threat detected and universal lockout across all devices. So on the run-hand side, you see the first logos of applications that are already supported with universal lockout today. And nowadays, we are happy to announce that we are capable of doing and implementing the universal lockout for more than 20 plus supported applications. So it's all about revoking access with a global session token. We also have support for customer identity applications within our Auth0 platform. We are also supporting for sure our first-party applications like the one-stop shop, the Okta dashboard, or the admin console. And upcoming features like support for device lockout when a threat is detected makes the solution very, very powerful. Shared signals pipeline with an OpenID Connect foundation. So really to take on the challenge of continuously assessing access and user access, for us, it was really obvious from the outset that we really want and need to have signals from the entire ecosystems. We know and our customers know that our Okta Verify signals are super powerful and informative, but having this kind of breadth of capability to detect and transmit signals and events from across the ecosystem was and is crucial. When you look on the screen, here is the pipeline is underpinned by signals from our top partners. So on the right side, you see vendors like Jamf, CrowdStrike, Imperium, Zscaler. So all of these big vendors are part of our integration and transmitting really valuable signals to enhance Okta's context. Additionally to this, the pipeline also includes receivers like Apple Business Manager, which can consume signals really to drive more intelligence decisions and also actions. As mentioned, all this is based on the shared signals framework that for many people is quite new and fresh, but we already see the power and the big potential. And from our point of view, this is and going to be the game changer in the next weeks, months, and also years. Last but not least, we also created and introduced within IDP net new dashboard widgets, reports, and including the capability of adding risk section as well as a risk level to each individual users. So the Okta admin can check in our one-stop shop admin console which users in my org are at risk. which are at high risk. So what kind of risk detection has Okta made based on the information that we have? So again, all in one place, all within Okta. To sum this up and check how the detections and the whole overview of ITP is, looking from the left to the right, it's all about consuming and taking signals from our so-called first-party signals. So our device ensures continuous monitoring via Okta Verify, then getting, adapting, and receiving the powerful signals of our shared signals framework top partners that we introduced on the slides. And then it's again, and very important, all about continuous assessment with the CAPE protocol. So the risk engine starts and is continuously evaluating all the different authentication policy. And if a risk was detected, if there was a session context or device context change within the entity risk level, our powerful real-time actions, in best case, universal lockout, or executing a powerful workflow to put the user in a quarantine group, create a ticket. All this is possible within the whole ITP flow. And that's why a lot of big brands, also a lot of big luxury brands, especially in Europe, are really happy that they are secured with ITP nowadays. As seeing is believing, we would also like to showcase you a short demo how the power of identity threat protection via the shared signals framework pipeline signals and a precise response of universal lockout is looking like. So in a few seconds, I will start a demo where you will see that the user already logged in to the Okta dashboard, is consuming a SaaS application, CS Salesforce, and then receives the email and clicks on a link that is a suspicious or malicious link, and then you will see the power of how we are immediately getting the signals and executing the powerful universal lockout. But let's get started. So here we have our user logged into the Okta dashboard with a lot of applications. You see Salesforce is already opened, and then I see, okay, I got an email from Okta, I need to refresh my token. Oh no, seems to be a phishing malware link. You see that Jump immediately detected the risk via the shared signals framework. We are in this moment continuously evaluating against the policies, and the precise response universal lockout for workforce, for Salesforce and for Okta was executed, means that the Okta session was immediately revoked. The access to Salesforce to the applications was already executed and the user was successfully logged out. And at the end of the day, as mentioned, the whole entity risk policy and the entity risk overview, we also set the entity risk level of the user within the Okta console to high so that the admin in the net new widgets can really review and check which risk detection and what has happened behind the scenes. To sum this up, it's important to say that to get security right, we really need to have identity right. So we see a lot of sophisticated attacks. The stats are paint the sobering picture. So we need to be prepared. We need to jump on the post authentication journey to really secure our identities in real time. And we are happy that IC Consult and Okta were able to introduce and showcase you the power of identity threat protection with Okta AI today. And all this is within one place with our powerful workforce identity cloud with different modules and options. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to IC Consult or to us. We are happy to answer your questions and are ready to take your security posture to the next level. And with this, I would like thank you.
Aki, thank you very much. So there are already a couple of questions from the audience. So a few of them are really related to CAP and also to universal lockout. Let me share one one slide. So because I think that's an area which might be really interesting to have an understanding of that, because I think CAP is really kind of game changer when it comes to enforcing, well, to efficiently integrate events and reacting on that. So
Yeah.
here, my screen again. So the CAP protocol, it's part of the shared signals and the shared signals framework of the OpenID Foundation.
Mhm.
So it's an additional protocol that you can use in combination with OpenID Connect. What it
Yes.
does, this is a standardized way that allows to have the interactions between identity provider, for instance, in mobile device management. Aki, you mentioned other partners like Zero Trust Network Access Gateways, like Zscaler, but
Absolutely.
there are many others, yeah? And the CAPE protocol allows to really, in a standardized way, share information around sessions, session location, but also claims inside the session changed. For instance, um, a user is losing a privilege, a role. Yeah? So you can make that efficient based on really that kind of standard protocol between the different IT systems, or the assurance level. The assurance we have in the authentication changed for any reason. Yeah?
Yeah.
We can also communicate it right away, or the device compliance, for instance. Yeah, so mobile device management got aware, hey, malicious software, this device is not compliant anymore. So let's every single relying party out there know about that. So it is really not just about identity provider logs out and hey, the refresh token is valid for 2 days and the threat actor can really work with it for 2 days. No, its event is going right away to all the integrated applications that have that kind of active session information. Again, we are not talking about proprietary integrations. This is a
Yeah.
standard protocol, and that for us is in the identity industry is really kind of I would say key factor when it comes to deliver the zero trust promise, right?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, definitely. So a real game changer because it's all about continuous evaluation, as you mentioned, of the device posture, and also the continuous evaluation of all the existing applications or global sign-on policy. And overall, this is a really, really huge risk reduction story when it comes to really maintaining the security posture and checking for this threat actors and threat that were detected by different partners or other capabilities.
Absolutely. So now we have one other question. Aki, maybe you can share your perspective on that. So what is the
Mm-hmm.
best way to test in practice whether attack detection is working effectively? And I think that's a very valid point because you are
Yeah,
activating all the features and now you want to have the proof that you are able to
yeah.
detect specific attacks.
Yeah, good point and good question, and definitely one of the main questions and also goals when we are talking with customers and prospects and pilots or POC. So once you activate the continuous evaluation of the authentication policy, you will see that ITP is started checking and generating some positive noise around Okta. But for example, to do or to execute a basic sample attack, it's very easy. So there are free tools. You just need to have two browsers. So log in into your Okta applications and another third-party application. Just extract or copy the cookie from one browser to another browser and change your location, and then you will see the massive value and the immediate detection where ITP will kick in. So we will detect in this moment that for us it's a session context change because it's the same cookie, it's a different location. So ITP will detect this immediately and then execute a precise response based on the use case that the customer wants to showcase. It can be as mentioned, hey, I want to execute a workflow, send a Teams message, Slack message. create a ticket within ITSM tool, or in best case, if it's a really high value target or high value attack, you just can implement and test the universal lockout for supported applications. And yeah, it's very easy and fast really to showcase again the big value of the power of identity threat protection. And we are happy to help, and we are happy to showcase more.
And I think that's a kind of very important example, because what you mentioned is what exactly happened based on that attack on the Google Chrome extensions, right? So exactly that was what the attacker is doing, and therefore I think that's a very valid test, and it's really kind of no effort making such a validation.
Definitely.
Then there's one question that is focusing on that kind of risk management perspective. So we only reach the yellow area based on the presented diagram. So what additional measures to further reduce the risk? And I think there are a couple of things, and of course it also depends on the risk appetite, because it always has a price to say that clearly. For instance, we notice not a case that the browser has been changed, but for instance, geolocation changed. Isn't this now something where we would like to force the user to do MFA again? Now, well, maybe that's fair doing that, right? So he traveled from Europe to US and now he has to log in again. Okay, but But if the attacker was now able to bypass was able to bypass the MFA method, and we still have signals that are somehow suspicious, do we would like to completely lock down the account? Maybe, but maybe the result would be losing revenue if it's a valid user. So we really have to balance the risks, how massive the measures are that we take on the user, right? And I think that's the reason why that kind of risk management exercises, from my point of view, nothing what can be done completely just from the IT security perspective is really including the business owners of the applications and figuring out what is the risk appetite, what do we want to prevent, what do we want to allow, and balancing it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. So balancing is definitely the right wording. So as you mentioned, it's all about application owner and business case, and all the also important remaining parts like the technology and the machine learning or the AI models that are behind the scenes working and checking. This is the second part, but we really need to have a good mix and match again, and a good balance between business and the technical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe to highlight one other aspect, of course, there are additional things you can do. So ask yourself, okay, what is the impact if an attacker is really able to get through the very critical privileged accounts? So to the domain administrator, what things do I have then in place to recover from that kind of attack? Of course, we do everything to prevent that kind of situation, but ultimately, also that is something what might happen, and then being able to come back from that very fast. That is a kind of crucial skill, I would say. And we have now one other question coming in. Does this continuous evaluation also checks location change if user is using a VPN? So, Aki, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all about the so-called session context or device context change. So we are definitely continuously checking against the current policies, authentication policies, but also when it comes to their behavior. So if a location was changed, if there was a login maybe in the last few minutes from different countries. So let's talk about impossible travels. For all these things that are within our Okta platform. So the behavior check, the device assurance check. So all this is part of this whole important continuous evaluation part to really secure the post authentication part and then execute the precise responses. So yes, absolutely. Not only checking for signals, but also checking for the whole behavior. So networks, devices, and many more. So session context change and also device context change that makes that that makes the whole ITP so powerful.
Mm. I just want to mention, of course, attackers are not. Maybe I'm not quite 100% sure how the question is meant, but to bring that up, of course, attackers today are sometimes aware that there might be a kind of focus on geolocations based on IP addresses and so on, and try then to use themselves a VPN that brings them near to the victim, same provider, these kind of things. It's of course requires a larger effort for the attacker that they typically not spend, but some of them might spend. And then there are of course other capabilities that also can be faked by the attacker. But again, it's making it more difficult for the attacker to bypass all these kind of detection mechanisms. And it's not
Yeah.
about having 100%, but having 80%. And if your neighbor just is able to detect 20% of these kind of activities, then the attacker goes for your neighbor, not for you, right? So that's a kind of race we are right now in. And well, and the good thing is about Okta AI, AI that is not supporting the attacker, but is supporting us to work against the attacker, right? So
Absolutely.
I think it's really required to use that kind of very modern tool set to not really be the easy victim for the attacker, because it's all about spending resources. And for the attacker, it's a business for them. They are, I think, recently I read a study that 85% of the attackers really have a very clear business case. They're doing that to earn money. It's not for destroying something for any reason. It's about earning money. It's about ransomware. And if it's for them too difficult to get in, if they have to invest too much, you are not a valid business case for them anymore. And that's the goal we want to achieve, right? It's not about 100% security. It's about not being a valid business case for an attacker.
Yeah. Good catch, good point. And yeah, the time is now. We need to be aware. So let's make the whole world more secure.
Absolutely. I think that's good last words, because we don't have more questions right now in the
Okay.
chat. Therefore, I would like to say thank you to the audience for providing these questions to us.
Thank you.
Very interesting points to discuss. Aki, thank you for being here with me. I think it was a very exciting conversation for around a very, very important topic that we should not ignore, but focusing
No.
on what we can do to protect ourselves against identity threats. And I think with Okta AI, you presented us a nice and efficient approach that we can leverage for that.
Yeah, thank you again for having us. I really enjoyed the discussions. Thank you also to the very interesting questions from the audience. And yeah, let's continue the journey. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us.
Yes, absolutely. Let us know. We're happy to follow up conversations around that topic. So then, have a great day and see you soon, hopefully. Goodbye.
Goodbye.